The first story takes us to the vast, lonely stretches of the Newell Highway in Australia. It's a route truckers know well, long, monotonous, and bordered by an emptiness so deep it feels like driving on the edge of the world. In 2021, a trucker we'll call Jeff was on an express run from Melbourne to Toowoomba. The clock had bled past midnight, and the relentless, unchanging landscape was pulling his eyelids down. His manager had warned him, this stretch was a mind killer. "Pull over if you get tired," he'd said. "It's not worth the risk." Jeff decided to do just that. He scanned the dark void outside his windshield for the next roadside stop. His high beams cut through the blackness, and then they reflected off something. Two small, glinting points of light. Animal eyes, he thought. But as the distance closed, the shape clarified. It was a woman, standing completely still on the gravel shoulder. His gut twisted. This was a classic setup, a decoy to lure helpful drivers into an ambush. He checked the shadows behind her. Nothing, just flat, empty land for miles. As he rolled closer, he saw her clearly. She was frail. Her clothes were tattered rags, caked with dirt. Her face was sunken, her eyes hollow and red. She looked less like a bandit and more like a ghost that had just climbed out of a ditch. Against every survival instinct screaming in his head, Jeff slowed to a stop. He rolled down the window. The woman didn't speak, just looked at him with those empty eyes. "Hop in," he said, his voice tight. She climbed into the cab without a word. The smell hit him immediately, a thick, sour odor of damp earth and decay. She sat rigid, staring straight ahead at the road, not blinking, not speaking. For 10 agonizing minutes, the only sounds were the rumble of the engine and Jeff's own pounding heart. Then slowly, she raised a bony arm and pointed ahead into a patch of utter darkness. "Here," she rasped. "You want me to drop you off up there?" Jeff asked, his throat dry. She nodded. There was nothing there. No house, no light, no turnoff. Just the black outline of a distant tree line. He pulled over. The woman got out and, without a backward glance, began shuffling slowly across the ditch toward those trees, swallowed by the night. Shaken, Jeff drove until he reached the next town, Narrabri. He parked and finally slept. But the smell of her, like open grave soil, still hung thick in his cab. The next morning, over coffee with other truckers, he told the story, laughing it off as some strung-out hitchhiker. But the laughter at the table died. One of the older drivers went pale. "That stretch, about 5 years back," he said quietly. "A car went off the road. They didn't find it for a week. The woman inside, they said the heat and the critters." He trailed off, looking at Jeff. "You described her exactly. The clothes in the police report matched what you said." Jeff never finished his coffee. He walked back to his truck, the man's final words ringing in his ears. "They said she was last seen alive standing by her broken-down car trying to flag someone down." The question has haunted Jeff ever since. Did he pick up a living woman in the depths of a breakdown? Or did he give a ride to someone who'd been waiting on that dark shoulder for years? Our second story comes from the desert of Arizona. State Highway 87 is a notorious ribbon of asphalt, winding through barren landscape with steep drops and deadly curves. Trucker William Church knew it well. One night, around 2:30 a.m., he was driving the empty route between Phoenix and Payson. The darkness was absolute. Then, a flicker in his peripheral vision, a quick flash of white on the right shoulder, like light glancing off metal. It was there and gone so fast, he thought he'd imagined it. But it nagged at him. At the next truck stop, he pulled out his dashcam footage. He rewound to the spot near mile marker 200. The video showed his truck cruising forward. And then, for just a few frames, something appeared on the shoulder. It wasn't a piece of trash or a sign. It was a human shape, but it was transparent. You could see the desert scrub right through it. It was small, like a woman or a child, and it seemed to be taking a step, walking along the edge of the road as he blew past at 65 miles per hour. William felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert night. He started digging. He discovered that just 1 month before his drive, there had been a fatal car crash at almost the exact same location. A young woman had been killed. The news had picked up his dash cam footage and the debate raged, a trick of light and dust or something else. But for William, the logic was cold and simple. The road is dangerous. People die. And sometimes, in the places where life ended too suddenly, a trace remains. A silent looping echo caught on tape, forever walking the shoulder, waiting for a ride that will never come. He sold the dash cam. He says he doesn't need a reminder that some passengers aren't listed on the manifest. This story begins not on a dark highway, but in a cozy bar in historic Wilmington, North Carolina, a place called Cape Fear Wine and Beer. They decided to stock a new beer, Original Flag Porter 1825. The sales rep told them it was a faithful recipe, a beer that a British soldier from the American Revolution might have drunk. He even mentioned a name, Walt, an ancestor who served under Major James Craig when the British occupied Wilmington. A fun story, nothing more, until the strange things started. Doors to the cooler would shake violently as if someone was trying to get in. A shadowy figure was seen pacing by the beer cases, and the cooler door for the Original Flag Porter would fly open by itself, the light clicking on. The staff started joking about their ghostly regular Walt. Then, one night, a bartender was closing up. He'd shut off all the lights and was at the door when he heard a loud pop from the back. Heart racing, he went to investigate. In the porter cooler, one bottle of Original Flag Porter 1825 had snapped in half, cleanly. The bottom half stood on the shelf. The top half, cap still sealed tight, lay on the floor. The creepiest part? The bottle was completely empty, bone dry. Not a single drop of dark porter was spilled anywhere in the cooler. It was as if the contents had simply vanished. The bar eventually moved to a new, larger location. They wondered if they'd left their spectral patron behind. They hadn't. As soon as they were settled, the phenomena started again. Doors rattling, shadows moving. And they discovered something new. Whenever they'd get a new batch of porter made from that same ancient yeast strain, a bottle would go bad, or a tap would malfunction until after a day or two. It's as if Walt needed to sample it first to approve it for the living customers. So if you're ever in Wilmington and you order an historic porter, raise your glass. You might not be drinking alone. And just remember, the spirit in your glass might be more than just alcohol. Our final story comes from a couple we'll call Mark and Lisa. Their cross-country road trip was ending, and for their last night, they wanted something memorable. They found it online, a beautifully restored historic inn in a quiet town. The photos showed a grand staircase and antique furniture. The reviews mentioned quirky charm and atmosphere. They didn't mention the other guests. They checked in late. The lobby was deserted and their room was on the top floor. The elevator was an old, creaking cage that shook unnervingly on the way up. The hallway was long, dim, and silent. Their room was nice, but it felt heavy, oppressive. Lisa joked it was just the big dinner they'd had. In the middle of the night, Mark woke up. He felt a deep, irrational dread. The room was ice cold, and he heard it. The clear, unmistakable sound of a child's laughter, followed by the soft pitter-patter of small feet running in the hallway outside. He lay frozen, listening. The running stopped right outside their door. Silence. Then, a faint, tiny scratch at the wood, like a fingernail dragging down it. He woke Lisa. They both heard it. The scratching turned into a gentle tap-tap-tap. Mark, angry now more than scared, marched to the door and yanked it open. The hallway was empty and warm. The oppressive cold was confined entirely to their room. They didn't sleep another wink. At dawn, they hurried downstairs to check out. The cheerful clerk asked how their stay was. "Fine," Mark said quickly. "Just, is this place known for anything? History?" "Oh, yes," the clerk beamed. "It was built as a private home for a huge family. Very prominent. 10 children. She leaned in conspiratorially. A lot of guests feel drawn to go up to the top floor, you know, where the kids' rooms were. Isn't that funny? Mark and Lisa exchanged a glance. They hadn't mentioned their floor. The funny thing is, the clerk continued, her smile not quite reaching her eyes, most people who go up there don't stay long. They say they start to feel sick, like they're not welcome. Mark and Lisa left without another word. They later did their own research. The Beautiful Inn? It was once known as the Bellamy Mansion, and the stories weren't just about children's laughter. They were about the fact that in its long history, many of those who lived and died there never left. The inn's current owners don't advertise that part. They just warn their staff that some guests on the top floor might check out very, very early.